Equator line. How
Yes.
far are we from the equator?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And
So
California
welcome.
and Arizona are not that far. I mean, compared to Australia.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. So welcome to our webinar on the Passionate Heartline and then talking about the Heartlines class. I am excited that you're here. I think a couple more people are joining us and be glad, but we're recording. And I'm going to give you, Michael, permission to also record so that we make sure you have it and you don't have to wait for me to send it to you.
Good idea. I am recording.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so today, yay, we're going to be talking about the Passionate Heartline, which we don't talk about very often because not that many people have the Passionate Heartline. But first, I would like to introduce again Michael and Marlene, and I know both of you are familiar with them because Nellie, you've been on all of the calls, all of the webinars that we've been doing, so I know that you're familiar with them. And I know you were on the last one and you missed the interview with Marlene, but you've watched it, right?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, so you've been introduced to them, so we don't really need to go into a lot more detail about that. At the end of the Passionate thing, we'll be talking about the details of the class, of course. So, but as we're talking about the Passionate, whatever you are already familiar with, and Dune, you've had some exposure to hands already, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've completed the CHA. Yeah.
What?
And I've completed the CHA year-long. So I've done the intensive and the CHA.
Okay.
And then I've done additional courses with you, and I'm doing additional courses now with Ronelle Coburn. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So feel free to add stories and examples about relationships with Passionate when we get that to that part, because we don't want it to be just the three of us. We're not the only ones with knowledge and experience and wisdom and information. So we want you to participate. And Nellie, I don't know how much you actually know about Heartlines yet.
I've just finished studying a little bit with Beth about Heartlines, but I'm new to the actual application of reading other people's hands. So I don't have a lot of experience to share yet.
Okay.
That is changing. Yes.
But you may know people who have Passionate Heartlines. You know, you may actually
without having looked at their hands, I may know them. Yes.
Well, and there are famous people, lots of famous people. I'm going to share a little bit about that in a minute.
Okay.
And Claire, I don't know what your last name is, so I don't really know exactly who you are. But are you at all familiar with hand analysis because you've studied it? I can't hear you if you're talking, so I don't know. Okay, so yes, be available to share stories if you'd like. And I'm going to go into the PowerPoint on the Passionate Heartline slideshow. Start from the beginning. Here we go. Oh, Passionate Heartline. This is the fire element. One of the things we're going to be doing in this class is having a lot of conversation about the qualities of the elements and how they apply to the heartlines. One of the things that is true about passionate fire is that fire always is moving. Fire never, ever sits still, or it smolders and goes out. To be the element of fire is moving.
Say
Whoever is that, could you mute yourself? Thank you. And I'll mute you too, Dune. So the element of fire never goes out, and that's an important part of understanding the passionate is the fizzle aspect. If the fire feels like it's diminishing and fizzles, passionates lose interest. And that's something to be really aware of. We'll be getting a lot more into this when we actually are in the class. That's one of the elements of fire that I wanted to share that I've experienced personally with people who have Passionate heart lines. All right, I'm muting everybody so we can do this. Passionate heart lines are short and curvy. They end underneath the Saturn finger with a dramatic curve, and the dramatic curve is one of the things that distinguishes them from the big heart. Big hearts have more of a slope in the curve. Passionates have a dramatic curve, and it needs to stop before it passes this imaginary dotted line between Jupiter and Saturn, between the index finger and middle finger. And the word dramatic really works well because passionates also have relationships with drama. There's also sometimes when the passionate heart line, it's going in that dramatic curve and it's going up in that dramatic curve, and then it takes a dive and it goes over to Jupiter. This is the passionate acting like a big heart. It's also called passionate and big hearts clothing. And those are two different pieces of language. I don't know, Dune, do you have a different language for that you call it? I mean, you probably learned the whole Donna Gina thing, right?
Yes. They call it passionate gone nurturer. That's the language that I learned.
Passionate's on what?
Passionate gone nurturer.
Gone nurturer.
Yes, the big heart is referred. Well, I learned the big heart was called the nurturer rather than big heart. And this is what I have. Passionate gone nurturer.
That's good language. Thank you for that. That's good language. Yeah. The truth is both of the heartline energies are available. And so to me, it's not that the passionate has given up the passionate. They're just adding on the big heart energies. And so the word gone doesn't work for me as well because I think the passionate, it's adding on and becoming two different heartline types. That's my personal experience with it. All right. And it's me first because it's short. It's all about me first. And this is a card I made, and I put the crown on here because passionates, royalty is a big thing for passionates. We're not going to be talking about that today, but it's true. Curvy means must express feelings. So I'm going to turn this over now to, who's doing this, Marlene or Michael? And I've lost track. Okay, Michael, so unmute you. So Michaelin's going to talk about these next two slides.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the master path of the passionate. And master path is what feels good compared to the student path. And this first picture I love because either one or any one of these children could be the passionate in the group, right? The odds are good that one of them is the passionate and said, let's go swimming, and I'll go first and jumped in, and then the other two followed along because passionates do tend to know what they want and just go for it. And one of the benefits of that is that other people get to tag along and have fun with them. Go ahead and go to the next one. And this slide, I love this slide. Drama king or queen owns it. The other element about the passionate is this is a sense of excitement that's carried with her or him all the time. And it does show up. This is not just a heart line, a line in the hands that you see when you're looking at somebody's handprint, right? This is an indicator of how they live their life. So it's often true that you can look and people watch on the street and you might see somebody that is acting like a passionate, and you can tell maybe from the way they're dressing or the way they walk or how animated they are when they're talking. I love this picture of the woman in her jacket and the color, striding forward. So she likes that sense of excitement and drama in her clothing. And she owns that.
This is a picture, by the way, I took at Venice Beach. And I saw her and I went, oh my God, she is such a passionate. I have to take a picture.
Yeah, I would be curious, like what her stride was like, you know, how she was moving down the street. I would be really curious to see a video of her moving. So Marlene, do you want to talk a little bit about Student Path?
Sure. Okay, so as Pamela said, the element of fire is related to the passionate, and fire keeps moving. It doesn't stay still. And so it's the same way with people with this heartline type. They can get bored so easily because they always want excitement. They want things to keep moving and for something to be happening that really captures their attention, that they can be passionate about. And so on the student path, if they're bored, they might create drama. They might create some excitement. You know, if you think about the class clown who maybe they're bored listening to the teacher, so they're going to start a ruckus and get some attention, get some things interesting going on in the class. Or if you think of a relationship, they might start a fight with their partner when things get boring, because that spices things up and gets things really exciting. But a student path, right? Because you don't want to be fighting, but that might bring about some excitement, and they might enjoy the makeup after the big fight. That could be another way. The sparks are flying, you know, lots of passion. So yeah, boredom can lead to, if you have children who are passionate, you know, make sure they have things to do so they don't get into things they shouldn't be doing if they're bored.
Yes, good luck with that, right?
And then rage, anger, getting frustrated, because passionates, you know, they want what they want right now, and if they aren't able to get that, they can get angry and they can throw a temper tantrum. And we've all seen kids do this, and we've probably all seen adults do this too, and it's not pretty. But passionates, they're so emotionally expressive, right? That super curvy heartline, the more curvy the heartline, the stronger the emotional expression. And so with passionates, they are going to express. When they get angry, you're going to know it. You know, they're in that moment, like Michaelin was saying, they're in the now, and they're going to show their feelings. They are going to come out, and they're so in the moment, it's not easy to pull back and get perspective, right? It's just, I want this now, and if I can't have it, I'm angry, and you're gonna feel it. And this can be difficult for other types who are around them, you know, because it's like, whoa, it's a lot. It's a lot of energy.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Marlene.
Yes. So I want to share, I don't have a passionate heartline type. I have 2 hermit heartline types on both hands. And so it's interesting for me when I'm dealing with passionates, different ways that we can interact or things that might be challenging for me as a hermit. One is I can have a conversation with a passionate, and we can both be excited about something, and I think, you know, we're going to do this thing together because they're so enthusiastic about it. And I think, and I believe that they're totally on board and we're going to do this thing together. And then when it comes time, they don't show up, or they're doing something else. Their interest is elsewhere. And I'm thinking, but we made a decision. We were going to do this together. And this is because I'm a hermit. Like, I'm thinking they lied to me, they betrayed me, I can never trust them again. This is something that happens with hermits because they feel like commitments. Well, it's almost like I have my own rules and expectations that I've decided are how things work and what all of your different communication means to me. And that because you did or said a certain thing, then you've made this commitment, this promise, this oath to me. And so when it doesn't happen, I'm really upset about it. But that's my code, right? I've probably never shared that with that person or anyone else, possibly. And yet I think that they're going to be assuming, I'm assuming that they think the exact same way. And so now they've broken this commitment, which for me as a hermit, that's like one of the worst things I can do. It's like, I hate to tell someone that I can't do what I said I was going to do. And meanwhile, this passionate person is off doing this other thing. They're perfectly fine. They have no idea that I thought they were committed to anything. They were just excited in that moment, right? Because they're so in the moment. At that time, they may have thought they were going to do it. They were right on board. But then later, something else came up that was much more interesting, and that's where they went. So it's really good to communicate. So that's a piece. It's interesting how those things happen when different types get together and we have different ways of interpreting information and communication. And another thing is those temper tantrums I was talking about. When I see someone throwing a temper tantrum, it's like, whoa, because I'm a hermit, so I'm much more reserved with how I express my emotions. I can be really angry or upset, but you're probably not going to know unless I decide to let you know. I can just keep it to myself, I can take it inward, be very quiet about it, or pull you aside, but I'm not going to make a scene. And so when I see that, it's like, oh, that's so uncomfortable. Why are they doing that? It's like everything's about them. And at the same time, if I look underneath that, where I'm kind of judging their behavior, if I look underneath that a little bit, I realize, I'm a little jealous because they get, they're so good at getting people to pay attention to them and get help and get assistance with things and get people to take care of them. And maybe I want a little bit of that sometimes, but as a hermit, that's awkward for me to ask for help. Like, that's just not something I think of doing unless I feel like I absolutely have to have it. If I feel capable of doing something on my own, probably going to do it on my own, because hermits are very self-contained, can be very independent. So it's not common for me to ask for help. But when I see other people doing it, it's like, maybe I can learn a little from that and start trying to ask a little more often for what I need. So some examples of the hermit and the passionate.
Thank you, Marlene. All right, now I'm going to talk about romantic idealists and passionate, because I have romantic idealists on both hands. Romantic idealists are the opposite, complete opposite of the passionate heartline. So there is a consciousness that they're going to be attracted to each other because opposites attract. I have found, as a romantic idealist with a passionate in my life, that they really are opposite. Oh my God, they are really opposite. Unlike the hermit that is also very self-oriented, the romantic idealist is focused on other people's needs first, right? And there's somehow that the passionate has figured this out, whether they know what your heartline types are or not. And I have often felt taken advantage of by passionates, because for me to articulate and share what's going on for me about my feelings takes me a long time. Of all of the 4 heartline types, the romantic idealist takes the longest amount of time to articulate, to come up with the words and articulate, for 2 reasons. They're reserved and cautious, so they're reserved and careful about what they want to say, and we also are very focused on other people's needs first, so we want to make sure that we're going to be considerate, and what we say is going to be well formulated and considerate, and that can be it's a quality of the romantic idealist. It's, I have other qualities in my hands where I can be super direct, but that happens. And so the experience of a passionate making a request of me, I need time to tune in and figure out what I want to say in response to this. And the impatience on the passionate's part sometimes is a problem, because they want it, like, why can't you just decide? What is the problem? Why can't you just make a choice right now? It's like, well, I need time to take it in and figure it out and, decide what's really in alignment for me. And when I don't do that, I'm often very upset with myself, because I've made a choice to take care of somebody else instead of me. So I've had multiple passionate people in my life, and I've learned this lesson multiple times. I still have my moments of, oh my God, did I do that again? So even though I'm conscious, even though I've written a book on it, even though I teach this stuff, I still have my moments when I lose track of who I am, my romantic idealist. I find that the best way to work with them is to be able to say, I need some time to think about this. Because if I don't, then there is an expectation that I should have an answer right away, and I should. it seems to be the best option for both parties. And like Marlene said, you know, the interest could fizzle. The things that we're in conversation about could completely fizzle by the time I've come up with my response, and then the time is gone. That happens. And I just have to honor that if it's, you know, that's what happens, that's what happens. All right, so Michael, would you like to share about being a big heart?
I would. I just love that the three of us have, you know, 3 different heart lines, right, on our hands, so that we can have this kind of conversation. It's not typical to get together and be able to have these perspectives. But as a big heart, I share expression with passionates. So that's the thing we have in common, is we are, it's easier for us to express our feelings. We tend to be more expressive than, say, the hermit or the romantic idealist. And for me, that means when I'm having fun with a passionate, it is really fun. It's super fun. And in thinking about this earlier, it came to me that there's a trust factor that I have as a big heart for a passionate, because I know what they're feeling, right? They're not hiding anything from me. Whereas sometimes with hermits or romantic idealists, there's that part of me that's wondering, like, because they can be a little more hidden, right, behind the face. You get that, Dune? I see you nodding your head, right? That I wonder what's going on. It's like, what's going on? What's missing? I'm always wanting to connect. And so I trust passionates in that way, that I know exactly what's going on. They're not hiding their feelings from me. They say what they want. And when they change their mind, that's fine, because they're communicating that to me. So I can connect with them that way, which is big for a big heart. The part that we don't have in common, the difference, is that I'm other-focused and the passionate is self-focused. So that to me looks like, can look like selfishness. When I'm thinking of a passionate, that's she's being expressive, or he's being expressive, but he's asking for something, or making a demand, or saying, this is what I want to do, just stating a desire. I think, well, that's great for you, but what about everybody else in the group? Or what about me? So the judgment that I have about that is one often of selfishness. Like, why are they always thinking about themselves? You know, why can't they just consider me? Why can't they consider the other people in their life? Or we have a whole group here. Can we pay attention to what's going on in the group, please? And on the other hand, I mean, the dirty little secret about that is the same thing that Marlene said, is that I get a little jealous. And I actually find it inspiring. I go, well, I wonder what that's like. I wish I could be that way sometimes. I'd really like to be selfish sometimes, because as a big heart, I tend to give and give and give until now I hit some sort of roadblock, like I get resentful, or I get burnt out, or I get angry. So I get a little jealous, and then I go, oh, I see what that's about. I want some of that. So then I look at passionates in certain circumstances and say, wow, I'd really like to do that. I'd like to be that way. So I try it on, and I think about myself. And that's when I do my best at self-care. That's when I do my best at boundaries. That's when my relationships improve, usually. And if there's something that needs to be improved, at the very least, the people I'm in relationship with will sit up and take notice. Oh, Michaelin's paying attention to herself. She's thinking about herself. Wow, this is different. I'm thinking of my 12-year-old right now, who called me today and said, Mom, can you bring me lunch at school, because she forgot to pack her lunch, right? Typical, like, passionate behavior for her. And I've gotten really good at saying no, so that she learns from that. But I have to go through about 3 or 4 steps in my mind before I can get to that no. So I think that's one of the big differences between big hearts and passionates is it's very instinctive. A passionate might just say, "Are you kidding me?" And hang up the phone, right? And move on to whatever she was doing. Whereas I have to go, "Oh, I want to," right? My heart reaches out. I want to help you and make you happy. Ooh, is this good for her? Is this good for me? It's probably not good for her. It's definitely not good for me. No, I'm not going to bring you lunch. Then I have to deal with, oh, was that the right thing to say? I don't know. I have to think about it. Well, I know she was tired and running late this morning, but yeah, it was the right thing to do. So a lot of inner conversations about boundaries, but the passionates are the ones that teach me, along with the hermits too, about taking care of self and identifying their own desires.
I
So,
wanted to add one thing because I forgot to talk about the benefit.
okay.
And for me, is their enthusiasm gets me off of my mental looping and thinking about stuff and getting me to take action and do things that I would not normally have considered, and sometimes very spontaneously. All right, let's just go da 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 da. Really? I'm not dressed. Look at my hair, right? It's like, okay, but whatever, let's just go do it. So that has been a big benefit to me, is to have passionates get me off my mental processing, out of my loop-de-loop-de-loop-de-loop that romantic idealists get into, to have to think about everything. I just want to share that. It's been good. It's been a huge, big benefit.
That's great. That's great. So I'm checking in to see if there's any questions about anything that I've said or Marlene or Pamela has said so far. Dune or Nellie, do you have any questions for us? And are either of you, do either of you have a passionate heartline?
I'm actually passionate going big heart. Like, I'm both. So what you just said is my living reality day to day. I have a passionate heartline daughter who is, for me, being, and I probably live on the more big heart side of my passionate. My passionate sort of characteristics are quite sort of submerged, if you like, because I actually find that whole concept of being passionate to be actually quite selfish. How can I be like that? So I actually bury that, and I live more in the big heart. So I am the big heart of my family, and that situation that you just described, Mitchell, I do that on a daily basis, except I would take the sandwich to school. That's what I admire your ability to process that and go, no, because I get to the point of, is this good for her? No. Is this good for me? Well, I can do it. So I would take the sandwich. So, and I find myself doing that all the time. So then I get very quickly to the point of resentment and, you know, that sort of thing much quicker, because I actually have terrible ability to put those boundaries up to say, you know, and my daughter's 20, not 12. So, you know, so I've got a lot to learn there. It's still very difficult for me to say no. I just, you know, I sort of say to I'm the enabler of my family. I just do. And I know it's not right and it's not good for them, but she's challenging for me because she's 100% passionate, heartline on both hands.
Right.
And for me, in my big heartness, like I find myself feeling squashed like an ant every day sometimes because I don't have the boundaries in place. So it's quite an interest. So what you just said, it's so interesting because, yeah, I struggle with the two, and I actually find it a little bit difficult to understand that passionate heartline. Like I feel like it's so submerged in me that and I know that you know, part of when I was learning hand analysis, it was like, well, I need to bring that out, but I don't quite know how. It's so foreign to me. So, but yeah, interesting.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a wonderful example. When a passionate is in a relationship with another passionate, like even part of your heartline, right, is passionate, that what tends to happen often is there's a polarization of the two because there's just really not room often for two passionates in a relationship. So one will tend to go in another direction, and the other will tend to go more in the passionate direction. So it sounds to me like that's part of what's going on with your daughter, as a way of just normalizing that dynamic for you.
Yeah.
So I would love to see, in the class, how we can explore that with you, and exercises maybe that would help you and support you in moving forward with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Nellie, what are your heart lines?
My heart lines are hybrid, actually. Solid hermit on both hands, and a little bit of romantic idealist on the right, and a little bit of passion on the left. And so that makes sense to me why I need to take time in what I'm thinking about and how to say it. But I also want what I want when I want it, and I'm reserved. And it's like, who am I? I'm a ball of mixed cereal, and any one moment I can be this or that or something else. So it's very challenging and confusing, and I'm sure that's why people don't know who are you today, Yeah.
And we'll talk about that as well. Someone who has multiple heart lines, especially 3 or even 4, how that feels. And yes, it can feel crazy. It can feel confusing for you and for those in relationship with you. And I would look forward to exploring more master path conversation around multiple heart lines with you, because it's there. It's definitely
flexibility is the word I use.
Yeah.
Lots of flexibility.
Thank you. Yeah. Very versatile, very accommodating, and then very, demanding. No, this is it. This boundaries. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Marlene, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, I did want to say, because Dune kind of alluded to it a little bit, and it's something I always like to ask about passionates, and that is, if and when in your life you have felt that passionate part of you was squelched or not okay or not allowed, because that's what we often see, especially when we see the passionate acting like a big heart, is that often as a kid, that wasn't okay to be passionate. It's be quiet, stop, what are you doing? It's, and especially as a woman, right, you should be more giving and caring and take care of everyone, and those types of messages. And so the passionate gets kind of quieted and shut down. And so just curious if you've had that experience yourself, and then also just if you can think of anyone, either of you can think of anyone in your life where you've seen that.
I think for me, I've tried to just sort of, in learning this, think about when the passionate in me was maybe shut down. And I can't sort of pinpoint any particular thing in childhood. I'm really not sure. I think when I became a mother, the big heart part of me just sort of overtook. It's like, you give 3,000% in everything you do. So becoming a mother, and I became a mother first time around, completely out of the blue, like it wasn't on my radar at all. This child decided that this was his time to arrive, and it just took me completely off where the pathway that I was on. I was probably on a very passionate pathway at that time, and I literally switched train tracks, and I probably never got back on the other train track. And there has always been, I identify a slight amount of resentment in me ever since, because I was heading that way, and then all of a sudden, oh gosh, I'm going to be a mother. I have not even thought about that. Oh, I now need to know what that means, and completely probably gave up on that part of me, if you like. So that's how I identify. For me, it wasn't from a childhood thing. I think it was more at that phase of my life when I all of a sudden became a mother unconsciously, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that, because, well, first of all, I had the same or a similar experience in that I also became a mother suddenly and unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And being a hermit, double hermit, I love my time to myself in my own space, and I'm, a me first, self-oriented, and so it it kind of turned my world upside down as well. It's definitely, I always say it's the hardest thing I ever did, because it created such a challenge for me in caring for this other human being when I had other things I wanted to do. And so that totally resonates with me. So I'm glad you shared that, and it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think another thing for us to explore during the class is, you know, compassion for yourself, and like what you did, and the care that you gave your daughter, and you know, ways to let go of some of that resentment, and see how to use that now, you know, that she's grown, what you can do to bring a little of that passion back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Nellie, do you have any stories of where you've seen that happen with people getting squelched, their passionate, or your own passionate side?
I was real passionate as a little girl watching these variety shows. I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer, and I do sing, not like Pamela, almost okay. I sing in the church choir, and my dad said, no, singers are a dime a dozen. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I'm cut off. What do I do now? And, you know, I thought, okay, singers are a dime a dozen. I got to figure out something else. It was probably a good thing, because I don't have the skin to be out there taking a lot of rejection. But, yeah, I know that not in squelching feelings, but in identifying, I knew when I needed help that I was calling on someone who I thought was a nurturer, and it would be interesting to see, does she have a big heart in her hand? So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It is interesting to see what happens when someone's really passionate about something and they have that design in their hands, and then they're told, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. You can't do that. Don't go in that direction. That's not okay. Yeah, so interesting things to look at, and how we respond to these outside circumstances in our lives where things don't match up with what our hands say.
Well, the truth is my life does match up with what my hand says now. So it's incredible how things turn out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So Pamela, did you have anything you wanted to share or ask about?
Well, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I have like 2 or 3 binders of photos of famous people, Hollywood people, and some politicians. And most of the people in Hollywood have passionate heart. And it's fascinating. I mean, some of them have hermits. Almost the successful ones pretty much all have passionate heartline. So I started looking at that, and it's like, oh, well, this makes total sense. It also explains like why the relationships wouldn't work for Hollywood people who are married if they're both in the film industry.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're both passionate. This is not an easy thing to live with. Other heartline types do better living together than passionates do. They can. I'm not saying they can't. I actually met a couple where they both had passions, and they've been married for 15 years, and happy to report they were really happy to still be married to each other. So, but the examples that I just see so often, and Angelina Jolie plays the passionate role in every single movie that she is in. There's not one movie that I've seen, even The Good Shepherd, which she's downplaying, she still plays the passionate. And she has a passionate heartline on one hand. She has a big heart in the other, but she has a passionate heartline. So she can do this. And I think the reason that there are multiple reasons why this is required, I actually feel like it's a requirement to be successful in the movie or music business, especially if you're going to be singing, not so much if you're going to be the drummer, but if you're singing, is because you not only need permission to be passionate, but you need to be so self-focused that your career comes first. Mm-hmm. And the willingness to be in the fire.
Yeah.
In order to succeed with what comes. And, passionate, once they've got a desire and they're living that desire, they've got other desires. They don't have just one. They have desire beyond desire, beyond desire, beyond desire. So if something doesn't work out, they go to something else, right? They're not attached to, like hermits, they're not attached to things being the same way. They're open for change. They're really open for change. Because they get bored so easily if there isn't change. So I wanted to add that because I think it's an important role modeling for passionates who are successful, is that they really take control of their careers. Right? The really successful people in Hollywood and the musicians, they take control of their career. They have people helping them. They're not doing it alone. But their energy, the people can't be around them and support them if they're not willing to be this passionately expressive, it's all about me person. And so I find that to be it's been a helpful role model for me when I'm looking at my romantic idealist and going, I want some of that. I want to be on stage, right? I write Apollo Life Purpose. I want to be on stage. But I need to have that kind of enthusiasm and display that so I can borrow that from what I know about passionates, right? I can just take on, I'm just going to act like a passionate right now so that I can get into that kind of energetic. And it works because in the moment I can do that. It doesn't last a long time, but I can do it when I need to do it in the moment. Take advantage of those role models. I watch a lot of movies. If you've read my books, you know that I watch a lot of movies. A lot of movies. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share about celebrities. So Michael and Marlene, is there anything else?
I have a list of people in my mind, friends that I've had, people that I've worked with over the years that I don't know what their hands say, but I'm calling them a passionate. And they're the ones that I called when I wanted to have a fun night out, right? They're the ones that I went to when I was feeling bored or feeling down about something. I could always count on them to bring that spark, like you said, to bring that energy and to get me out of whatever I wanted to get out of. So I do appreciate the passionates a lot in my life, and I know what I can count on them for and what I can't count on them for.
Right. Exactly.
I would be curious what Meryl Streep has in her hands. I don't know if you have her.
I don't. I haven't. She doesn't. She's not one of those people who waves, She's not a waver out in public. And that's what you need, You need the people who wave. Jennifer Aniston has passionates on both hands. And she plays her Rachel role completely, passionately, completely.
Yeah.
Alignment with her heartline types,
I ask about Meryl Streep because she's so gifted at getting into character, and her characters are so varied.
Right. Yeah. I don't think she doesn't represent one heartline type like what's her name?
Jolie.
Yes, Angelina Jolie. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh, Brad Pitt's wife, former wife. Okay, I'm guess what I'm going through in my head. Okay, so yeah, she's just it all the time. Mm-hmm. And the role model you probably learned about Duna, and I know Michael and did as well. Marlene has heard about it. Is Juno Lollobrigida?
Yeah.
Representing the passionate heartline. She was the one that Richard named after an aunt. She is so passionate. She's extreme.
Yeah.
She is extreme in her passionate expression.
Which kind of throws you a little bit. It throws you a little bit when you're learning, because she was before my time. And because she was so extreme, you kind of expect then, oh, okay, so passionates are like her. And then you don't come across many people like her. So it is a little bit, you need to sort of bring it into today's world and go, okay, so, and tone it down to really understand the concept of it. I just one thing I'd like to ask, because Richard talked about this a lot, about incorporating 8% of your opposite. So can we talk about that throughout the course? Because that's something that confuses me a little bit. I mean, we've obviously touched on it a little bit today, but is that something that you can make a note of to discussed during the course, because that's something that always throws me a little bit about understanding that.
I agree with you. The first weekend I was taking classes with Richard and we were talking about heart lines, I was like, what are you talking about integrating your opposite? This makes no sense to me. And because I've written a book about heart lines and I've edited it multiple times since 2002 when I first published it, I now have a clearer sense about what that means, but it took a while. I completely understand your confusion. I really understand what in the world does that mean. But yeah, I think that's a great thing to be talking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I think the example that I gave of my daughter calling, to ask for lunch again because she forgot it in the morning is a good example of me taking on some of her characteristics, right? Some of her passionate and hermit characteristics, and understanding where she's coming from. So I have compassion for that, and I can feel the passion. The compassion, right, is passionate. And then also honoring my own, like, what do I want in this moment? So I'm borrowing that element, that question from her. She knows what she wants. What do I want in this situation? How can I be passionate too? And that means that she doesn't get what she wants.
Yeah.
So for me, that's an integrating opposites. I'm also married to a hermit. So I get to...
Which is your opposite.
Which is my opposite. Yeah. So I get to understand, admire, what's the word? Try it on. I get to see him doing it often enough that I get to try it on for size and see how that feels. And it serves me to do that sometimes. So I think of that as integrating my opposite.
Yeah, okay.
Is the only child you have your 20-year-old, Doon?
No, I have a 26-year-old son and a 20-year-old daughter who both still live at home. So, and I'm currently, no, don't do that. There's reasons. Please don't put that societal expectation on me. No, it's there's reasons for it, and it's okay. I won't go into it now, but yeah. So for me at this point in time, and also because currently I've chosen not to be out in the workforce, and I'm just at home developing this hand analysis and studying and things. So of course you become far more available because you don't have to be somewhere. So I have really stepped in or fallen into that big heart pit where I literally, I'll do that. Okay, I'll pick up the pieces. Okay, because especially for my passionate daughter who's, she's quite unorganized and just lives in the moment and doesn't think about, well, I need to organize myself to get to A, B, and C. So I find myself, helping out where she hasn't planned because she's not thinking like that. I mean, she's also a very creative person. So you put the two together and you've got someone who doesn't absolutely think about the practicalities of I need to do A, B, C, D to organize my day. She just lives as if it's, so I enable, which is not good, I know, but it helps to keep the peace because she's quite fiery as well. So there's a lot, I've got a lot to learn, there's no doubt about it.
Right. Yeah, I understand that completely. Yeah. Okay. Well, I just have a question. Nellie, are you going to be in the class?
I think I want to be in the class because I need to learn more about the elements that you're going to be speaking more of. So and how they relate.
Okay.
Yeah. So I say yes.
Okay, great. Good. I kind of figured you were, but
thank you.
Even though you're learning, and what you're learning from Beth is my materials, right?
Yeah.
I just talked with her yesterday about that.
Okay, great. Well, she shares it in a way that, she expands a little bit more. She's very, very talkative, and that helps my brain to grasp the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll be getting a double dose with a slant towards the elements.
Well, and you'll be getting different kinds of insights as well because you've got 3 different people with different heartline types talking about heartline types, right? It's a different perspective. So.
And isn't Beth a passionate?
She's got
She's
all four
also a
Heartline
hybrid.
types.
She has all four. Okay.
Yeah.
She can represent the passionate among your four Heartline teachers there, Nellie. So you've got it all covered.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got all four. So
I do love talking about the elements. Just one last thing around Heartlines. It's the best fit in hand analysis. It's the best place to use the elements, I find. There are a lot of other places where we use elements in conversations for markings in the hand, like hand shape is also an elemental conversation. But I love it for Heartlines because it's so dynamic, and it you can visualize, water and fire together and the things that happen, right? Or earth and air, or earth and fire. So I find it very helpful in understanding visually, right, and at a gut level how the different Heartlines work.
Yeah, I know, it really helped me a lot.
It was interesting to learn that as a hermit, I'm an earth element person, but I really am. I'm not an earth mother, but I really am down to earth. So I'm very, very logical in the head, and I'm not out floating in the air. I can get fiery, but that's good. A little bit of versatility. Thank you.
Hermits are actually more in the body, and the romantic idealists are more in their heads.
Yeah, I'm very much in my body.
You got them all. You got all of them.
Thank you.
And all three of those. So yeah. Okay, great. Unless there are any other questions or comments, I think we're complete.
Well, Pamela, are you going to talk more about the class for the people listening?
They're both in it, and I think, Nellie, you've gotten a lot of details about it already, right? Or do you need more?
Well, there might be some folks that watch this recording who couldn't be here live.
True.
Oh, yeah, right, okay. So before I do that, okay, so yes, let's talk about the class. So we are going to begin on May 22nd. Current slide. There we go. I don't know why this isn't working. Okay, are you seeing the Heartlines class stuff? Okay.
Yes.
We're going to begin May 22nd, which is a Wednesday, for 8 weeks, every week, from 1:30 Pacific time for 90 minutes, so from 1:30 to 3, or from 4:30 to 6 Eastern time, and doing whatever that translates into in Australia time.
Yep.
And whatever other time zone you're in. And we're going to be doing the same format on Zoom. All three of us will be here and presenting different parts of it, and of course, talking about our own Heartline types. For sure. All the materials are printed materials that are going to be sent to you ahead of time. So that you have all the printed materials, and it would be fabulous if you print them all out and bring them to class with you so that you can refer to things in the materials, and it's not just the three of us talking, but you also get to share things because you've reviewed the content, or you already know the content and have examples or stories to share. So that would be helpful. And the intent for this class is to be certified to be an expert in reading Heartlines, to be certified in reading Heartlines. And so we'll be doing some readings in class as well. And this is a really safe place to practice reading for other people's Heartline types. It's $450, and if you need a payment plan, please email me, and I will get that organized for you. So that's what is up. Are there any questions about or comments?
Yeah, I have one question, Pamela. Yeah. You asked that we all send our own handprints into you. What format do you want that in? Is it okay
if you have prints,
I would
love prints. And if you also can send digital photos, that would be great. I kind of like having both because they show different things.
So a photo of the live hand?
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I can send both. Yeah.
So if you have a version of an iPhone 7 or later, or somebody in your life does, they have a much better camera than their earlier phones, And I don't know what's true on other manufacturers of phones, but the iPhone 7 and later has really good cameras. Sometimes when I zoom in when I get the digital photos, and if they're too fuzzy, I can't see the details. So, but handprints are fabulous.
Okay.
And
I'm assuming that you have handprints, right, Dune?
Yes. I'll send them. I don't have an iPhone. I find it quite funny that all Americans work with computers, iPhones. We're actually Androids.
Okay.
Australians don't like.
Well, if you know someone with an Android that has a good camera on it, then
yeah. No,
you can always send them to me. If they don't work, they don't work, and we don't use them. But the prints definitely.
No problem.
And you can either scan or photograph your hand prints.
Okay, that's fine. I'll get them to you this week.
And send them on the highest. If you photograph them, send them on the highest resolution possible.
Okay.
Because again, when I zoom in, they get fuzzy if they're not in the highest resolution.
Okay.
Very important. So, okay, any other questions? Right.
One more question from me. Sorry. So the certification, I would actually like to do the full certified course. So what does that involve? So of course,
you would like what?
So the certification, because I think you said in one of the emails that you can do the certification or you don't have to do the certification.
Right. So the certification involves, we'll have written assessments that we'll be doing as we go along. And there'll be, of course, show us how you're reading hands, show us how you're reading Heartline, talking about it. And there'll be a final review, a final experience of that.
Okay.
You'll be doing readings as you go. So it won't be, and you've already probably been doing readings, right?
Yeah, some, not a lot. I'm starting to. I think I've nearly completed my 100 hands for the CHA. But
that's good. You know how many people never do that. I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, it's really I'm sort of really at a point where I'm still trying to get a picture in my head of how this looks for me. It's quite a lot of people here they hear what you do and they go, so you just do palmistry, and I that is a real mental block for me. I just go, no, it's not what I do. So it's I'm just at that point where I'm just getting business cards done now, and sort of I've actually really sort of said, okay, how am I going to do this? So, but yeah, I've just got to find places to go and do more readings and put myself out there. I'm going to a networking function in a few weeks for the first one to actually give a small introductory talk about it. So that's got me shaking in my boots. But anyhow,
that's good. I'm glad. Do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah, do it anyway. I did a lot of networking when I was learning how to read hands. Very helpful process. What's helpful is learning how to talk about it so that people can understand what you're saying and that they understand the difference between palmistry. And I'm going to give you a hint that I give students is that if they ask you and they're interested, you can say, I'll tell you one thing for free, and look at their hands and read something that you know. Don't try to choose something you don't know, but choose something you do know and look at their hand and tell them 1 or 2 sentences about that. Because then otherwise there isn't a way necessarily to relate to it, but this makes it very real, very tangible. And it's a really good marketing technique to engender further conversation. So if they're interested, just ask, can I look at your hand? And I'll be happy to tell you one thing for free. And if you say the one thing for free, they know there's a limit and you're setting a boundary, which is a really good thing for the big heart energy that you have. Set the boundary up front. Works really well. I've done a lot of that. Very effective.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Gives them something tangible to relate to. Right? Oh, that's what you're doing. Do not choose fingerprints, by the way. This is my other caution. Do not talk to them about their fingerprints. in that environment. Just talk to them
Yeah.
about some line in the hand or something that you are really comfortable in, upline, hardline, whatever it is that you're really comfortable with. It's going to make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't start with, one of the heart lines and spiritual journey challenges.
Dangling
heart lessons and spiritual journey, sorry.
No Jacob's ladder.
No, yeah, don't talk to me about Jacob. All right, great. Okay, and I think we're complete then, right?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. It's been good to have you here.
Looking forward. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
E3.
All right, we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Everybody.
Bye.
Okay, bye.